Hello and welcome to the Road to the Garden podcast. I'm Matt St. Jean, your host as always, joined tonight by Michael DeRosa. How you doing, Michael?
Doing great, Mr. Wednesday, large and in charge, baby. I was born for this. I was built for this. Wednesday night, Big East tournament. Who else do you call? You call me. I'm ready. Let's go.
I love the enthusiasm for this. And Joey Jarzynka joining the show. How you doing tonight, Joey?
Oh, Matt, thank you so much for bringing me aboard here, and that was a fantastic introduction, Michael. My goodness.
You need that kind of energy. We're gonna be previewing the Wednesday games of the Big East tournament. You know, it's the name of the site, Road to the Garden. It's here. We basically made it. We're less than 24 hours till we're gonna be there, and looking forward to it. Could be a day where we see maybe the last games for not one but two Big East coaches. One of the storylines in this one, we got two games that are also first-time Big East tournament matchups, and Villanova also plays for I think the first time on Wednesday in a very long time. That's for sure. Villanova fans actually just discovered that there are Wednesday games at the Big East tournament. So that's what we got. We're going to preview the whole thing and talk about the games we got and what they mean for all of these teams. Before we get into it, your reminders as always. First of all, we've teamed up with SeatGeek this season to get the best deals for tickets to your favorite teams. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, and they're here to give you some great deals. Get in on the fun and head over to SeatGeek, download their app, and use code NCAA Hoops Digest for $20 off your first purchase. You can use that on some Big East tournament tickets. Trying to get down to the Garden, listen to this, and you want some last-second tickets, go ahead, use that, get on down. And as always, this podcast is presented by House Enterprise and in partnership with House of College Hoops. Head over to our site, house-enterprise.com, for more info. All right, guys, tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern at Madison Square Garden, we're going to kick this whole thing off. St. John's and Butler, 8-9 game. Winner of this one gets to play Marquette. The last time we saw them play, it was a wild finish. Was it a good game? That's debatable, but was it entertaining? Absolutely. Michael, you were there. You wanna refresh us just a little bit before we get into this?
So I was there, and I don't know what happened. I didn't know what happened in the moment. Now I'm trying to recall it as it happens. So the score was the exact same for the last minute 31. Seamoss made a layup with a minute 31 seconds left that gave Butler the lead. Then I'm just looking at the box score here trying to remember. It looks like Eric Hunter picked Pasha's pocket. Then Butler called timeout. Then out of the timeout, they ran this awful inbounds play that was basically Seamoss was just inbounded the ball and just handed the ball to St. John's. I think it was Pash or Andre Curbelo. It was Andre Curbelo.
Andre Curbelo, correct.
Yeah. Then Curbelo went down. St. John's missed. I don't know if it was like a layup, whatever. Seamoss got the rebound, went to half court, turned the ball over. St. John's got it back. Then they had the thing where they had layup, miss, turnover, foul. Seamoss misses 2 free throws. Game goes down to the other floor. They miss a shot, out of bounds. St. John's ball. St. John's lobs it to the hoop. It goes. Soriano catches it, tips it in. But since Jalen Thomas tipped the inbound, clock expired and Butler won. So if that explanation sounded chaotic, that's because it was, and I might have even missed something. That game, the ending of that game was so sicko. It was just as sicko as it gets.
Yeah, that was a wild finish. These two teams split the season series too. St. John's got the win in the first one before all of the dramatics there. I know, Joey, I think you were there for the first one. Yeah. Do you even have any notes from this game? It ended up being a blowout for St. John's, 16-point victory.
It wasn't anything special, to be completely honest with you. 77-61. What I do remember though was that, Butler towards the in the second half, they put on a little bit of a run. Nothing too crazy. It was Chuck Harris. It was Seamoss as well. That they pretty much did their best to go up against the double machine in Joel Soriano. And then, of course, too, you also had AJ Storr, who really was beginning to light it up around that time. So he had about 12 points, I think, or 12 or 10 in that range. But be that as it may, simply St. John's eventually pulled away. Butler, they had a tough time shooting in the second half. And Yeah, that was pretty much it. Like I was saying to you guys off camera too, we were making a joke along press row. There were a few times when we were all looking at each other, we're like, all right, is this game going to end already? You know, it was a real snoozer, especially on a Tuesday night too.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping if we're going to open the Big East tournament in style here, I hope we get something more like the second game than like the first one. Before we talk about the actual matchups in this game, Michael, so the regular season's over. What has this been like for Butler? Could you consider the season a success? And if not, are there still some positives you can take away from it?
This season, you can't. I don't think under any circumstance you can consider the season a success. There was there was optimism. You have a new coach. It's like everything's gonna be fixed. It's perfect now. Like Bulldogs are back. Under 500. Early season, the team actually looked decent. Like you beat Kansas State. Like that is a very good Kansas State team. And Butler not only beat them, they controlled that entire game. They were up 20 at points. That's one of the best performances a Big East team has put on this year. And then you have like that awesome game where you beat Xavier and you storm the court. That was awesome. But other than that, not really. The big thing though, Jaden Taylor's really emerged. He's legit. He wasn't in on any of the all-conference teams. It makes sense. The team didn't win many games, but Jaden Taylor has really he went he took a little bit of a break. I shouldn't say a break, but he slumped down a little in the middle of the season, but he's back. He's sparked up. He had 20 points in quite a few of the games to end the season. He has looked like a legit player who can really build off of this season into the next couple of seasons. Jaden Taylor has been a shining light in what otherwise has not been a great season for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think up and down has been the way it's been for Butler, especially with injuries over there. Also been up and down for St. John's. I don't think the Red Storm expected to be in this 8-9 game before the season. We've heard rumors about Mike Anderson. Joey, do you think this could be his last game in a St. John's suit on Wednesday should the Red Storm lose?
Yeah. I mean, again, from a lot of the rumors that we've heard, through our media colleagues, and we've heard that it's the chances of a coaching change are pretty good. Again, I know that there are some rumors about the buyout number with Mike Anderson. Some of those rumors or reports either have been debunked or, there have been confirmed, whatever the case may be. To answer your question, Matt, do I believe that it's the last game? I would have to say yes. As of right now, though, if you look at the NIT projections, St. John's is slated to be in one of the NIT games. And the way it looks, too, from a couple of sources of mine is that the 1-2 seed, I forget who it was that the NIT right now has as a 1 and 2, but there would be some issues hosting. So the way it looks is that there's a slight possibility that St. John's could potentially host an NIT game. So do I think that tomorrow could be the last game? I don't think so, because, that's if they accept an NIT bid. But if they don't, then yes, it's 100% the last game.
That's very interesting, because I think that means we could see multiple Big East teams being nationally invited. I know there's been rumors about Villanova potentially for that. I don't know if they actually would, but having those two teams in a NIT, I think it's interesting for sure. It'd be quite the story, especially the fact that two of them met at MSG last year and looked like St. John's was going to pull a crazy upset for a little bit of that game before the wheels fell off in I think what has unfortunately been typical St. John's fashion over the last however many years, however far you feel like going back. Let's just talk about this game and what we think is going to happen. Michael, your Butler's the 9 seed. You're on the road here, so I'll let you go first. What's your expectation coming into this one, and what matchups are you looking for?
I think the main thing to look at if you're Butler is Manny Bates got injured at the end of the last game against Xavier. Can he play? The school's very quiet about this stuff, so we won't know until like an hour before game time at the earliest. Actually, maybe I should text a manager. That's actually not a bad idea. That's another conversation for another day. Also, Ali hasn't played in the last 5 games, something like that. 5's a little too many, but somewhere around that range. You don't know who's going to play. But I really think it's so much of this game comes down to tempo, and with it coming down to tempo, it's a point guard battle. It's Eric Hunter versus Posh Alexander. Who can control the pace? If Eric Hunter can control the pace and be some of that guy that you saw in times at Purdue, and sometimes early the season too, Butler could stay competitive in this game, and one of the guards in Taylor, Lukosius, and Harris is going to have to go off and have a tremendous game. Harris and Lukosius did it last year in the Garden. Hopefully they can, this is the second home of the Bulldogs, and they can just take over. Someone's going to have to go crazy. Someone's going to have to put up an excellent scoring performance, and hopefully it's one of those guys.
And do you want to make a prediction? I'll save the predictions for after Joey talks about the St. John's side of things here. What are you looking for from the Red Storm, who just are coming off near comeback road victory at Marquette the last time they played?
96-94. I mean, who would have thought that? Did any of you guys have that on your bingo board or no?
I'm going to be honest. I'm never surprised in the St. John's game when at least one of the teams scores 90.
So bad. It's so bad, but it's so true. I'll be honest with you. I'm looking forward to Joel Soriano. He was just selected as the most improved player in the Big East, and rightfully so. He definitely deserved that award, especially after a disastrous 2021-22 year. I expect just him to really just attack the front court. That's really what I see. And especially too, that Michael was saying that Manny Bates had gotten hurt. If he's not in there, Joel Soriano can just really eat the whole way. And I think also I look at the other side of things, where are we going to see Andre Curbelo, or are we going to see Posh Alexander? Who are we going to see as that primary ball facilitator? I'm very, intrigued to see. We have also seen too that the players that St. John's has, right, they're very inconsistent because of the inconsistencies with coaching, right? And we spoke about this off camera too, right? They've got the talent, but they don't have the coach who can get them to that next level, right? I think with this game, they'll be able to, I guess, I guess what it's so hard to come up with certain positive words here for St. John's, just because we know about their first half woes, and then they eventually lose it, then they're up by 12 and then they eventually lose. But no, I'm like I said, I'm very intrigued to see also, primary ball facilitator. Who is it going to be? Is Curbelo going to be scratched? Is it going to be Posh? AJ Stoll, how is he going to fit in with Butler? We saw him back in the beginning of February in Carnesecca Arena. He put up 12 points, but it all depends on where Mike Anderson plays him, how he plays him too. One day he might be on the bench. Another day, he might be in the starting lineup. I'm very intrigued to see what he's going to go with. I'm intrigued to see what happens there, but there's a lot of question marks with this St. John's team, because you can get a team that can score 94, and then you can get a team that can score 66 the next time.
Yeah,
Butler's going to need the team that scores 66 if they want to win this game.
Yeah,
Butler put up 90.
What's Butler's highest scoring output this year? Do you have any idea?
My guess would be, and I don't have this, I'm trying to pull it up in front of me as we speak. My guess would be the very first game against New Orleans.
No, it's the game against St. Francis.
Right. They went off that game. They had like 50
95.
at halftime. Oh, yeah, they couldn't miss that game. That was the one game I couldn't be at because I was going home, too.
St. Francis, PA, yes.
Yeah.
The Deadly. They're good, man.
Butler only hit 80 points against power conference teams twice, and they were the games at Georgetown and at Cal. So,
okay, those are two pretty good teams. Come on. That's the offensive outburst we're looking for against elite competition.
Yeah. So this is I'm intrigued by the contrast in styles in this game, because this is a St. John's team that really is going to try to push the pace as much as possible and play that up tempo. And Butler is Michael, you like to say it's hold them to 60 and pray is the style for the Bulldogs. So opposite ends here, and I feel like St. John's has the edge with that, probably. I lean towards St. John's here. Who are you guys picking, Michael?
Hold him to 60 and pray was something someone came up with in my Twitter replies, and it's maybe the best thing I've ever heard. I don't remember who was top, but shout out to that guy. But you know what? It's the last game of it might be the last game of the season for my school. I can't not back my school. Come on. That's like cheating. So I have to back them. Someone's going off. Butler's won in this game the last 2 years, beaten Xavier twice. So you know what? It's like, you know what? Someone's going off. Chuck Harris is 30 this game. Butler wins. Butler wins big. They hit 80 for the third time against a power conference opponent. Let's go.
I appreciate the optimism. I love
Hell
it.
yeah, baby.
Yeah. Joey, where are you going with this one?
Well, that would be very comical, but I don't expect that to happen. I believe that AJ Storr will continue to be this freshman that is going to just shine. And I believe that also with the potential loss of Manny Bates, or maybe not 100% Manny Bates, I expect to see a lot of Omar Stanley. I expect to see a lot of Joel Soriano as well, despite what my predictions were earlier in terms of primary ball facilitator, whatever the case is, because Dylan Adewusu has done a fine job with that. I think that St. John's, they've got too much talent on their roster, despite the fact that they can't figure out, which play they want to draw up. I think St. John's wins, I would say 74-67 against Butler.
I like even going down to the score. I like that.
Yeah.
I also lean St. John's here just because I like what you said about the talent. I think that's going to end up proving to be the difference here. But I think the thing is, this is it's a St. John's team that can beat anybody in the conference when the shots are falling.
Yeah.
And that's been a rare occurrence for them, unfortunately, but we just saw it last time out. We'll say the last time we saw Butler at Madison Square Garden here, Simas Lukosius really came into his own. I think he likes the big lights. So Butler struggled to make shots. If that changes against the St. John's defense that's up and down, I could see them really making this close, making this competitive.
Yeah.
But I like St. John's in this one. And I'll add, I like whoever wins this to give Marquette a surprisingly competitive game. I think Marquette wins, but I think that next one's going to be closer than people think it might be. That's how I'm feeling there.
I mean, you did pick Butler over Marquette in one of the, and I have no room to talk on this. I got last place in that contest, but like I looked at that one, I'm like, what? So
hey, Butler
I love it.
Butler beat Xavier in Kansas State. Butler can beat anyone. I think they may have just used up the only chips they had on that front this year.
This is what I will tell you is that Butler and St. John's, they're playing with house money right now, right? And really every single team that is, I would say, even playing on Wednesday, they're all playing with house money. They're not supposed to get there. And you look at a St. John's team that, again, we said that they have the talent, they just can't figure it out on the floor where they can show this cohesiveness. They can't. But why not Butler? Why not St. John? Why can't those two teams potentially give Marquette a run for their money? I personally don't see it happening, Matt. So I disagree with you there, but it can happen. Yeah. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Part of the reason too is if it happens on Thursday, it's the noon game on Thursday in an environment that's going to be almost all Providence and UConn fans. So you might get a quiet arena, and if there's a recipe for a team just kind of not having its best game, plus Marquette just played Butler and St. John's last week, no matter what, it's going to be a somewhat fresh opponent. If that's a recipe for a letdown game if there ever was one. And I still have Marquette winning. It's just I think it'll be they won't cover. It's basically my whole argument.
Yes, I have to agree.
Yeah. Butler did give that Providence team last year a run for their money in that first game too. So
yeah,
I like it. Butler's winning this whole tournament, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Big stealer.
I love the confidence. I love it.
It's not real confidence. Right. Don't worry.
Let's move into the late afternoon, early evening slate, however you want to put it. 5:30 Eastern. It's DePaul and Seton Hall. DePaul comes into this one on a very long losing streak. DePaul has not won since it beat Villanova and Xavier in 2 out of 3 games. I think it's a 12-game losing streak now for the Blue Demons. Seton Hall, surprisingly hot with a dominant win and the best offense performance of the year at Providence without Kadari Richmond. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. Two teams going in opposite directions. And also two teams playing each other in the Big East tournament for the first time. So both of these first two games are historic and that we're seeing new matchups here. Joey, on the Seton Hall front, what's your read on this team coming into March? And do you take anything away from that Providence game for Seton Hall, or was that all about the Friars in your eyes?
I'll be honest with you. I think after watching that game, I'm a little more concerned about the Friars in that one. But, sticking with Seton Hall, though, oops, my bad. The Apple Watch there didn't like what I was saying, I guess, about the Friars. No, I look at it and I say to myself, this is another team that is not supposed to be really was not supposed to beat Providence, number one, and not supposed to beat them by nearly 30. But I think the big thing is without Kadari Richmond, the team kind of couldn't figure out they didn't have a ball mover. They didn't have anyone there. They have trouble down low, but now what we're seeing is Tyrese Samuel just simply evolve into this bona fide big man that he wasn't really built for. And he's excelling at a high level. Matt, to answer your question, I think to me, it's more about the Friars than it is about Seton Hall. But I think that win is so good for their confidence that if they can get Kadari Richmond back from that 3-game absence with the back issue, this team can make some noise. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a Seton Hall team that has beaten good teams this year and has been physical. They're tough. Even if they lose, they're, I think, a tough team to beat. And I'll tell you this, I wouldn't want to have to play my next game after Seton Hall on short rest with the way they're going to come at you defensively too in this tournament format where you get 24 hours to reset, play Seton Hall, and then go play another game. That does not sound like a ton of fun. Michael, I'll kind of come to you for the DePaul side of things here. The two games that DePaul and Seton Hall played this year were actually both decided by 5 points or less, which is very interesting. The first game came between the Villanova and Xavier games that they won, a 3-game homestand for DePaul. They lost that 170-167. The later one came at Seton Hall in early February, 69-64. I'm just curious your perspective on DePaul coming into this in general. Michael, do you think they have a shot? What's gone wrong? I don't even know where to go with DePaul at this point.
DePaul's season really, there was optimism in the offseason, they could be something, right? And then it's Caleb Murphy goes down. Nick Ongena goes down. It's oh, again? Really? You're getting those guys back, but adding those pieces this late into the year, it's almost it kind of makes things hard. It kind of throws off your rhythm and your chemistry and stuff like that. And I kind of think we're seeing that. I think it's gone under the radar that no one's just talked about it because it's just DePaul, and DePaul and losing have kind of been synonymous over the past 10 years. But just thinking about something like that, it's really hard to try to add those guys and to get them to fit in with the team. You've built something, you have some sort of momentum going. They beat Xavier. Did those guys play in the Xavier game or the Villanova game? I don't remember. I don't think so, but I could be wrong on that. I'm just gonna act like they didn't, and if they did, interrupt me, please. But I just feel it's kind of hard to add those pieces mid and just sort of you kind of lose that cohesiveness you built as a team over the year, and you're kind of restarting, and it's really hard to restart at this point in the season when some teams are hitting their final form. So that's the take on DePaul. But if Gibson and Johnson go off from 3, they probably combining to hit 10 threes, they could beat anybody.
Yeah, they got Yorine back for the second meeting. Caleb Murphy wasn't back yet. Nick Ongena came back, I believe, for the DePaul St. John's game, which was also another one of those late night wild endings that we got. So that was Valentine's Day, I believe, late night on Valentine's Day. So that was quite a game where Ongena had 8 blocks and DePaul still lost that one. And that kind of feels like DePaul basketball this year. I know, Joey, I think you wanted to say something about the Blue Demons.
Yeah, it's a tale of pretty much, a different Javen Johnson, right? There have been times when he can go off for 30 points, but then there's another time where he can go off for 3. And that's all he'll get. And if I'm not mistaken, in that game, I was there too, against DePaul, the 69-64 win, Javen Johnson was scoreless. 0 of 9, 0 of 9 from the floor, 0 of 3 from distance. They shut him down. He only had 5 rebounds and 1 steal. Seton Hall shut him down. And if they can shut him down, that I think is definitely crucial. But then you also look, too, they didn't play, or they didn't have, DePaul they did not have Nick Ongendo. So that is definitely something in the front court that would pose as a possible issue for Seton Hall, since that has been a good chunk of their season. And you also look at Emoja Gibson, too, who was in foul trouble in the first game against those two. And he didn't put up the numbers that he has been putting up, especially from downtown also. So I truly believe, though, that what DePaul has is a cohesiveness problem. Exactly what Michael said, too, is that they're getting these guys back, and there's just, I think that if they played a whole season together, I don't even know if they would have been that good. Like, I almost feel like that these guys are just 5 players on the floor, like 5 individuals on the floor.
Yeah.
Like that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, please, try.
No, that's how it feels. And I think I watched a lot of Caleb Murphy over the summer to try to figure out what he was going to be for DePaul, because I thought he was going to be a really interesting player. And I think you watch him, and he's got a lot of Devin Carter in his game with the way he likes to play, but also in the way that he needs refinement. Devin Carter was still kind of an unpolished product leaving South Carolina, coming to Providence. Caleb Murphy needed that, and you don't get that when you miss so much time with an injury. You don't get to play with the guys. And he's one of those players who I think, next year I think he'll probably be pretty good for them. But this year it's still a learning experience of him fitting with these guys. And I mean, they got talent. I think quality of shots is also an issue for DePaul. Some of their best bucket getters are also guys who take a lot of shots. I don't, man, other than like the entire Butler roster, I'm not sure who loves a contested mid-range jumper more than Javen Johnson.
Toxic.
And he hits them. He's pretty good at hitting them, but that's not a quality look. And you'd rather him be hitting some of these other shots. So I think there's that. And the DePaul defense is just, it's not that good. If they can't force turnovers, there's nothing going on there. Although Nick Ongendo being back, maybe we see something a little bit different there with the rim protection he gives you. So I think the path to victory here is going to be Seton Hall's weaknesses with ball handling, and if a DePaul defense can rally and force some turnovers and get going in transition. I mean, DePaul played 2 possession games with Seton Hall twice, so I think it's clear that on a good day, DePaul can beat Seton Hall. You need a good day that the Blue Demons haven't had in 2 months.
And that's the problem. And I think with Seton Hall too, right now, they're in this rhythm. And granted, they simply were not able, to pull away from Villanova on senior night, right? They were awfully close. They brought it, I believe, within at one point within 3. Then they lost by 4. And then I think at one point they were, down by 1. It was pretty close for a good chunk of that game. And they gave Villanova a run for their money. I think that, again, not all of the results that you've seen, they've lost 3 out of their last 5. Georgetown and Providence were the 2 wins. They lost to Xavier, they lost to UConn, and then they lost to Villanova. I think that the path to victory is not only Richmond, it's also, you look at the transfers too. I look at Dre Davis, who put up, I think, a 24 spot against Providence. He's coming off of injury from a few games ago. Matt, I hope everything's okay over there.
You hear the sirens?
Oh, I hear it. I
had a train whistle last night. So
good Lord. And then also Femi Odekale too, who had, I think, 21 against. I think he had 21. I want to say against. Was it against Providence? I believe so. Let me double check on that. 19. He had 19. He had 19 against Providence, but he was their point guard. And listen, I think if you get those 2 guys off and running, those 2 are the X factors. And then, you add in the defense there. And We know what Casey Ndefo has done. He's one of the best shot blockers in all of the conference, one of the best shot blockers in all of the country. He's just, this team has what it takes to do well. It's just I'm very concerned about the team's offense. Defense is not an issue. The team's offense is an issue because it could be good one day and the next day not so much.
Yeah,
New York.
Yeah, that covers it.
New York truth.
Yeah.
There, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm not holding anything.
There's going to be a whole lot of movable force against a stoppable object when Seton Hall has the ball in this game. Just weakness on weakness there for both of these. I'm intrigued to see what it looks like down the other end of the floor, but I think either team can win. We'll make some predictions here. Joey, is the Seton Hall team going to get this one done?
Yeah, I think they're going to get this one done, and I believe it's going to be it's not going to be as close as the other two games. I believe that there will be an offensive issue. I don't want to say an offensive outburst. I believe there will be an offensive issue. It will not be as high scoring as a lot, or I don't want to say it will be a Seton Hall blowout. It will not be that. I'm going to go 67-59. Seton Hall wins.
Michael, where are you going?
Offensive issue is such a good line. I love it so much. But yeah, I think Seton Hall wins this game. I don't know. DePaul just you can't lose that many games and then all of a sudden enter the conference tournament and just the saying is always it's a new life. You're restarting the season. Season starts now, but it's it is kind of hard to restart that season when you're just entering on a lull. And I don't know. I think DePaul, it stays within that 10-13 range a lot. But in the end, I just think Seton Hall just wins. I don't think DePaul really ever makes this a game where you're Seton Hall is going to lose. But I also don't think you're ever to the point where it's this is for sure happening now. But yeah, I got Seton Hall pretty comfortably.
Yeah. I'll also take the Pirates. We'll go 3 for 3 here. And I like your score prediction, Joey. I'm in the I was thinking 71-59, so I think we're right in the same margin there. It wouldn't shock me if DePaul keeps this close for stretches or goes on a run to make this interesting. It might be a run in that DePaul keeps scoring and at the same rate, and Seton Hall just kind of stops for a little bit, which we've seen happen with the Pirates this year. And it might be it's a 10-2 run over the last 7 minutes type of game.
Yep. And we've also, and I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but we've also seen too where Seton Hall has given up big runs, where they've given up 12-0 runs, 12-2 runs, 14-0 runs. We've seen it before, and too many times. And there have been times where they've had to crawl, out of this hole. Sometimes they've done it. Sometimes they haven't done it. And when I said offensive issues before, I don't expect the offensive performance from a Dre Davis like he had against Providence. I don't expect Femi Olakale to have another 19-point game. I really don't. I expect Alamir Dawes to have a decent shooting day. But that's pretty much it. I like I said, I'm sure tomorrow we'll be talking about it more, but I don't know, guys. Like I said, this is not, it's inconsistent. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. One final question before we move on to the next game. And I'll let you guys kind of pick whichever coach you want to talk about here, or if you want to talk about both, you can talk about both. 2 young coaches here at your program. How are you feeling with a win if you're one of these coaches? How are you feeling with a loss? And if that is the end of your season in terms of just trying to develop the program and take the next step? Michael, I'll come to you first on this one.
If I'm a DePaul fan, I think a win just gives you a little bit of mojo, but I don't really think it changes much. I think with Stubblefield, you've mentioned at length, it's this is going to be a rebuild that takes time. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. And I've seen some people calling for his head, calling for him to be fired. That's a weird way to phrase it, but people do it all the time, so I'm doing it too. I think that's kind of an overreaction. I just kind of think that's a little unfair to him. He's not coming into a program that was something before. He's coming somewhere where he has to rebuild everything. He needed to rebuild, not just get guys in, but he needs to get a culture in, get guys to want to come to DePaul, then guys to come to DePaul, then to run his system, then to go there. It's going to be a process, I think.
And to get him to stay at DePaul, I think is part of that, because the guy who's supposed to be the core of this DePaul team is now in Queens.
Yep. So I don't know. It's If I'm a DePaul fan, I don't know if this really changes anything. He's Seton Hall guy, so I'll let him speak on Shaheen. He would know more than me. But yeah, if I'm DePaul, I think that's really it. You give him next year, see if nothing changes, then you move on. But I feel like he's earned another year. I feel like they've had some momentum at times that they didn't have in the last couple of years.
I want to piggyback off of what you said, Michael, just to finish on the DePaul point, because, something else too is that we brought up early on how DePaul has been so injured throughout much of this year, where Nick Ongenda, he was out in the start with that wrist injury, did not come back for months later. And I want to see a full year of not only Ongenda, I want to see a full year of what Stubblefield can have at his disposal. And I want to see his team fully healthy. And if his team is not, and if his team is fully healthy and does not get the results, then you can call for his head. That's the way I see it, but until then, I think you have to cut him a little bit of slack, extend the leash a little bit, because you can be going back to the Dave Lato era real quick if you start playing these games. And it doesn't work. It simply does not work. We saw it with Lato, and you can even look at the St. John situation too. They called for Chris Mullin's head. They're calling for Mike Anderson's head. Listen, how many times have we said, okay, we're going to make a switch. We're going to do whatever it is, right? We'll give him one more year. All right, one more year turns this one year. There's always something that goes on here. I think that he needs a little bit more of a leash. But the Seton Hall part, Matt, what would a Seton Hall win do with Shaheen Holloway? It would cement that Shaheen is an up-and-coming coach. And I think that the Elite Eight run that he had at St. Peter's was no fluke.
I think the one thing I want to say on DePaul is, if I'm just to go back to that before you guys take over from this, if I'm a DePaul fan, I'm also kind of tired of hearing "be patient." Like, if I've been here this long, it's like, come on, man, just give me something to grasp onto. But go on.
No, I want to see. I think I'd like to see. You got to be happy with the season for Seton Hall. I think if you're Shaheen Holloway, just because it's not necessarily his guys on this team, and it's the first year, and you get to 500, and you get your big win in Providence. But I think ending that with a Big East tournament loss to DePaul, it's not going to change momentum or what you are going into next season. But I think it leaves a sour taste in your mouth after you just saw what this team can do when it all comes together. So I think you want to get to Thursday, and if you lose, then you lose. Then just that's the way the cookie crumbles. But this team is good enough that it should be playing on Thursday.
Yes, 100%. And something else too, Matt, is that Providence win, I think has done and will do extreme amounts, not only for Wednesday night against DePaul. I think it'll do something after, but we'll get into that maybe tomorrow.
That sounds good to me. Are we ready for the late game? And possibly.
All I know is that I'm happy. I'm happy, Matt, that it does not start at 10:30 or whatever it is. Thank God.
It's nice. They spaced the games out nicely for Wednesday. 3, 5:30, and then 8 p.m. Eastern. And by the way, these are all on Fox Sports 1. If you're looking for your broadcast information there, that's where you'll find it. That's where you could find just maybe the last game in the illustrious coaching career of one Mr. Patrick Ewing. Man, this is Villanova is somehow 1-5 all time against Georgetown in the Big East tournament, including the last time they met. Yeah, 2021. Part of that miracle run that was largely responsible for the predicament Georgetown is in at the current moment. Michael, I see you cheering over there. Is Georgetown going to do it again? Do the Hoyas have a little magic in them?
You went to the moon! Woo! Super Bowl. Hell yeah, baby. This is Georgetown's tournament to lose. Let's go.
Oh, Primo Spears MVP.
All right. You want to know how Georgetown actually wins the Big East tournament, though? Like serious, do you want to know how they actually win this thing?
How?
All right. This is where like, obviously you're not winning this game, but like you need to like steal the hearts of the nation, right? You need to steal the hearts. So here's what you got to do. Monday comes along, Jack holds a press conference, right? This is where he announces like officially, like it gets out to the media, like the Rothsteins, whoever, that Ewing's gone. But this is where he officially announces it. This is where he gets up on the stand and like in front of media and says, look, I'm sorry. I made the wrong decision. It was selfish of me to bring this guy back. I wanted this to work. I wanted this to work. And he gets out and he's apologetic. And then he says, you know what? But we got to commit to rebuilding this thing. The city needs this. The people in the area need it. Students, alumni, whatever. And then his mic cuts out. And you just hear a bell. Dong. And then everyone's like, what's going on? Then you hear another one. Dong. And then what? You hear a third. Dong. What's that? Oh my God. That's the Undertaker's music playing. Walks out. Rick Pitino. Hands held high. Georgetown cap on, doesn't say a word, just walks out like a badass. Minute, 2 minutes, and then he gets up to the mic. Camera cuts to black. Boom. Rick Pitino announces Georgetown head coach. Wild. Madness. That's how you win it. You steal the hearts of the nation on that Monday. Everybody's talking Georgetown. That's the Big East tournament win right there. That's how you do it.
By the way, when he gets, say, if he were to get that, no media is allowed, by the way. Okay.
No, no. This is a camp. Like this is a
we're getting
being played.
You got to get Spielberg to do it.
Yeah.
To direct that.
Well, I'm thinking we need like the WWE commentator. So like when the music cuts, like just for that one time, it's like the music's coming, and then you see Rick, and they go, by God, that's Rick Pitino's music. Oh my God, he's here, taking vengeance on the Big East. Boom. And there's a theme there too. Georgetown takes vengeance, Rick Pitino takes vengeance. It all comes together. The Rick Pitino update, the Rick Pitino saga begins with the Undertaker music. That's how you set it up. That's the lore right there.
God.
Oh boy. What a Tuesday night in the Big East right now. I feel sorry for anybody listening with headphones right now.
Oh, I'm gonna have to listen back to this when I'm gonna go to cut that clip, or at least see if I think it's funny.
Yeah, that'll be on Twitter. That'll be on Twitter after this one.
That will get my ears too. Don't worry. So I'll be a victim of myself too. Equality.
Oh my goodness. Joey, do you think there's any chance that there's a Georgetown win on the basketball court on Wednesday night?
No. No. We'll leave it at that. No, I have the, the saying, if you don't have anything positive to say, don't say it. All right. We're going to leave it at that then.
Yeah, there's been I think we've all said a lot about Georgetown basketball right now, and I don't know if there's even much use in going back through it all. We all know what the issues are there. We all know what this team is. They're better than last year. They're more talented. And they could give Villanova a fight for stretches. We've seen them give good teams in the Big East fights for stretches. But I also look at the last week for Georgetown, their last 2 games, and how they got absolutely manhandled multiple times. And man, I'm not gonna sit in this chair as somebody who doesn't play basketball and say the team is not showing up to play and there's no energy there. But those last 2 games were non-competitive, and everybody knows what's going on with the coach. So we'll see if they even show up to play against Villanova Wednesday night.
I think they will. I believe they will, because you know what? Listen, similar to what Michael did say, right? Listen, they won the Big East tournament back in 2020, right? Or 21, rather, right? Was it 21? It's
21.
21. I believe that they can definitely give Villanova some, let's call it heart palpitations, but that's about it. The biggest turning point or X factor for me, it's been Justin Moore. He's come back. Villanova's a completely different team. They can give every single Big East team a run for their money. And this team that never plays Wednesday, unlike St. John's, who kind of they're married to the number 8-9 game. They don't know what Wednesday's all about, and I think that they're going to take this. They're going to take this as a wake up call, and Moore is going to put the team on his back, and everyone else is getting better. Now we're seeing Cam Whitmore. He came back from injury, right, a couple of months ago against Oklahoma, right? Came back in that game. Was slow, obviously made his debut. He's slowly coming back now. And that's the only thing I'll give Georgetown. palpitations, but that's it. Villanova wins big.
I don't think Georgetown's ever been blown out in the Big East tournament in the horrific Ewing era, aside from that one Seton Hall game where it was like that was the Miles Powell year where they were the 7 seed and played Wofford in the tournament. Like that team was good. And that was Georgetown, like freshman James Akinjo, freshman Mac McClung. Those were freshmen their first game. I remember that game getting ugly immediately, but other than that, in like the 8-9 games, like when they played St. John's, they ended up losing and the number doesn't look pretty, but I feel like those games were close throughout.
Very.
And then like same thing when they won it that one year, obviously that game, those games they were competitive in. So I don't think they're going to get blown out. I think this will be like sneaky competitive. Like it'll never be like Villanova's going to win. Georgetown's going to win, but like it'll be sneaky competitive for a little while, enough to like maybe like throw on a joke like, "Ooh, Villanova, your season's coming to an end to Patrick Ewing, the house he built," and I'll have those jokes queued up. But then it's like Justin Moore hit 2 threes in a row, and it's like, damn it, maybe next year, Pat.
Right. Well, like I said, it's those heart palpitations that they will give you. Aside from that, no.
Yeah, and I think we're all on the same page there. I will say, for Patrick Ewing's sake, I hope this game is competitive enough that he can kind of go out on a relative high note compared to some of the recent games. Get a little ovation going out in what's likely his last game there at MSG, and hopefully send this thing off into the sunset with dignity. I think that's the best to hope for there for the Ewing era. It's already ugly. It's already messy. It doesn't need to get uglier or messier than it already is. I think that's kind of what you're hoping for there. We'll see what happens. Well, I will ask each of you. I think we all are going to have the same answer for this, but of the teams that are playing on Wednesday, which one of them do you think has the best odds to get to Friday or even Saturday? Joey, you're the guest on here, so we'll come to you first. Who would you pick?
The team that plays on Wednesday that has the best chance of getting to Saturday is Villanova.
Yeah.
Is Villanova. Michael says Butler. I'll answer it.
Butler sweatshirt.
He says Butler. Villanova, and I guess I will call it a 1A. In all seriousness, is Seton Hall. Seton Hall, and I believe that they can go on a run if they can, or not if, but when they beat DePaul. I say when they beat DePaul. But Xavier too is not 100% right now. So, but like I said, my answer is Villanova, no doubt.
Michael, I know you said you raised your Butler sweatshirt. Is that your pick here?
First of all, I started laughing when you were talking like the Patrick Ewing era ending on a high note. Just imagine they're up at halftime and he just leaves. He's like, "I'm out. My work here's done, baby." My shot just
God, that's it. Yeah,
that's what I'm rooting for. But yeah, you see the sweatshirt. Come on, no, it's Villanova. It's 100%. Come on, it's Villanova. I would probably, if they were able to play instead of that 3-game, if like you're in that 3-game and Xavier was a 3 seed, right? And then Seton Hall like plays Creighton that 2-7 game, and Seton Hall is able to just grind Creighton to like the very end, but Creighton just pulls through. That Creighton team really is 5 guys that they run out there. Those guys would be gassed in a full game against Seton Hall. You get them against Xavier, who's kind of vulnerable without Fremantle right now. Xavier's still very good, just to their credit. Xavier's an excellent team, but like Villanova's really good. They can beat them. They beat them in Cintas too. So if you gave them that road, I think I'd actually pick them to make the Saturday game. I do think Creighton gets them, but they can beat Creighton. And if they beat Creighton again, playing a team the day after you went to war with Seton Hall, because Seton Hall is going to play physical. And if they're playing Xavier, Seton Hall does not like Xavier. We saw the way that last game ended. They do not like each other. It does not matter if they're down 20. They're just going to start pushing them around. It's like, all right, sure, you might win this game. You might win in the next one. We'll make your life hell. So if you can get by that Creighton game, I can see it. I think I'm going to pick Creighton to win that game, but it's Villanova. It has to be Villanova. Yeah. I think Seton Hall could do it too, and no one in the 8-9 games doing it. They're not beating Marquette.
Yeah. I think we're all on the same page about this. It's chalky to pick the 6 and the 7 as the most likely, but there really is such a drop-off in the play of this conference after that. And I think the only team that we've seen flashes from outside of the 6 and the 7 to do something probably St. John's, especially because, they're in New York too, and they kind of get a little bit of home court advantage out of that, depending on opponent. So we will see how that plays out. Gentlemen, the tournament starts tomorrow. Can't believe it. And I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of people listening in the morning. So if you're listening on Wednesday, it's get yourself ready. If you're working from home, make sure you got your meetings blocked off in the afternoon so you can watch these games. You're not going to want to miss a second of this one. Before we go, we'll do our housekeeping to wrap up. So the next couple nights, it's going to be Tommy and I doing the show from the Garden. I don't know if it'll be live yet. I don't know exactly what the arrangement's going to look like, but you will have some content every night from the Garden in your podcast feed. Michael's going to be doing some stuff on Twitter, I am sure, so make sure you follow him. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the handle down below. Make sure to go give him a follow at MD The Dream. Michael, you have some written content coming, I believe, for the end of the week, too?
Yeah, got some stuff writing up, looking at some other conferences stuff, but then obviously, I'll have a preview up, which I have not started yet for the morning game, so that's something that I should have done already by now. And then definitely some season recap, stuff like that. The page will be active. I'll be doing my part to try to keep this thing going.
Yeah, so you can find his stuff there. And Joey, thank you for joining us. Let the people know where they can find your content.
Thank you very much, Matt, for having me. Thank you, Michael, for having me. Yeah, you could take a peek at @RealJoeyJazz on Twitter, EasternObserver.com. And, of course, tomorrow we will be collaborating with you, Matt, and also Tommy, too. We will be doing some Eastern Observer Road to the Garden stuff together on some instant reactions and some previews as well. So it's going to be a ton of fun. So keep an eye out on our YouTube channel for all of those previews. And of course, with following me on Twitter there, you'll be able to see all those videos go up too.
Yeah. So make sure you go check out Joey's stuff. He has awesome content. So for sure, check that out. Any last thoughts before we go on this one?
Rick Pitino.
I knew you had something to say.
It all.
Rick Pitino's the real Big East champion at the end of the day. I'm right about that.
People's champ, the people's champ. All right, well, that's gonna do it for us. Excited for the Big East tournament. For Michael and Joey, I'm Matt St. Jean. Subscribe to our YouTube, read the blog, follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for listening.